The average person has 26 online accounts.
That is a lot of accounts. So here's a question for you. If something happened to the person you love the most, could you find those accounts or even their passwords? Well, as you're about to see, two families tell us there is certain information we all should be dying to share.
Our honeymoon, day number 1 for us.
Dale Jensen in Mexico with his wife, Patty.
Having the time of my life.
Documenting their new lives together, a marriage that would not last long.
Where's Mom, huh? Where did Mom go?
4 years after that, Dale got a phone call at work.
It was her saying, I think I'm having a heart attack.
He rushed home to find his 46-year-old wife had died.
At 11 o'clock, we were joking and talking on email about a vacation that we're going to take that summer. And 3 hours later, I'm planning our funeral.
Like many couples, Dale and Patty figured they had a lifetime to have that end-of-life talk.
You don't think about it. You don't say, gosh, we need a will because I might die tomorrow.
When suddenly,
you're constantly sort of getting, clubbed over the head with, yeah, she's dead, yeah, she's dead, yeah, she's dead.
That's because they never really planned for it. Patty just never got around to putting Dale's name on her bank accounts, car loan, or investments. And even the software engineer couldn't crack her passwords.
What's her PIN? I don't know. You never ask people that. It's a 4-digit number she probably chose when she was 20 years old.
Suddenly, everything became too real.
Once you're gone, nobody can ever ask you anything ever again.
Her death turned him into a detective. An old receipt from a concert ticket helped to find a credit card. And it took months to get balance information on her car, timeshare, frequent flyer miles, and the money she was owed.
There's so much out there, and I'm sure I never uncovered all of it.
So frustrating, he took to writing.
Please, before you do anything else, consider this.
First, a blog pleading with others to plan ahead, then to his daughter from a previous marriage, listing his own bills, accounts, and passwords.
It's not going to be easy on her, but it'll be a little bit easier because of that.
Today would have been his birthday. He would have been 85 today.
John and Gail Nafziger were married 17 years when last winter, despite Gail's protests, John went outside to shovel an inch of snow.
He came in and said, "You were right, I shouldn't have shoveled."
The 84-year-old suffered a heart attack and died. In the blur that followed, Gail took some comfort in knowing their affairs were in order.
We had discussed it many times. In fact, we had pre-planned funerals. We had a trust.
The trust itself was over 100 pages and made clear who got what. Meticulously prepared and often reviewed. If something were to happen, they were ready, or so she thought.
You thought you were set up?
Absolutely.
And
we
you
didn't.
weren't.
We were not.
Several lawyers and realtors later, Gail is still sorting things out, blaming the mess on one attorney's really bad advice.
Their main thing was, do not tell your children what you're doing. This turned out to be probably the worst advice I've ever had in my life.
It left Gail and her daughter feuding with other family members.
It was just chaos.
Turns out that 100-page trust didn't simplify things, it complicated them.
Granting, bargaining, selling, conveying, some of these words I can't even pronounce.
Even John's gravesite is in limbo over whether it qualifies for military recognition.
Here it is 10 months later, still working out headstone issues?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we are.
From the minute it happened to today, she's not really had a moment to grieve for him.
If their stories had you saying, I don't want that happening to my family, it had me saying the same thing. So I asked estate planning attorney Jody Cohen-Press to come by and help me sort out what I needed to know about my own parents.
Do they have life insurance? Do they have annuities? Do they have retirement plans? Do they have long-term care insurance? That's a big issue.
I didn't exactly pass her quiz, so she gave me some homework.
You said your parents are having their 50th anniversary?
We're throwing them a big party.
She told me to fly home and enjoy that 50th anniversary party. But after the cake was cut and the last song played, to sit down with my mom, dad, and brother and get some answers. But where do you even start?
You guys had a good time at your 50th?
Fabulous.
In the off chance there's not a 100th, I thought we needed to talk.
Okay.
I'm ready.
We never had any of this conversation. How come?
It's a tough talk because you don't want to think about that time.
You don't think about that time.
She's right. She's absolutely right.
If something were to happen to one of you, the other knows where all the passwords are, knows the bank accounts, knows all the information. The other's ready to go? Or?
Not exactly.
Mom says she is, but Dad?
Mom always has taken care of all the details.
So if she lands in the hospital, or even worse,
He's in bad shape.
who's the executor? Who's in charge if something happens?
You are, honey.
Why is this news to me?
I thought you knew it.
And it turns out I may not even be the best choice, according to our probate lawyer.
You live in Minnesota,
Right.
and they live across the country.
Yes.
How will you manage that? How are you going to do that?
Do I call you?
I'm suddenly starting to feel maybe we're not ready. So armed with 10 questions all adult kids should ask their parents, I delivered them rapid fire to my mom and dad.
You just give me yes or no, we're ready. Healthcare directive?
Yes.
Power of attorney?
Yes.
Hesitation?
Hesitation because I'm still thinking about it.
Will?
Yes.
Trusts funded?
No.
Life insurance? 401ks?
Yes.
IRAs?
Yes.
Long-term care insurance?
No.
Pensions?
No.
Primary and contingent beneficiaries for investments? Everybody's named?
Yes.
When was the last time you looked at this stuff?
As for online passwords,
Are they written down in a secure place?
Yes.
Do you know where that secure place is?
No.
I couldn't help but notice between the guys, my dad, brother, and me, we didn't know much.
I'm learning as much as they are.
Isn't it funny that she's doing all the answering?
Well, probably not so funny.
Cohen Press says that's not all that unusual.
One parent may have paid the bills throughout the marriage, and one may have been in charge of taking out the garbage throughout the marriage. And whichever one dies first, either taking out the garbage is going to be a horrible event, or balancing the checkbook and paying bills will be difficult.
By now, can you guess who does what in this relationship?
I do the trash.
And my mom, the checkbook. So it turns out, even if the one person who controls the money is convinced she's prepared, but no one else is, there's a pretty good chance no one's prepared.
You and I have to have some conversation about this.
I agree.
There's a lot
I
of
agree.
voids here on my part.
It's good to have a meeting. It really is good to have a meeting and be able to talk about it.
Yes, it is. Sometimes just getting everybody together is the hardest part. Well, we do encourage you to have that meeting to talk about it. We have all kinds of resources, including the top 10 questions to ask your parents or any loved one, really. Online, you can get a lot of information by going to KSTP.com right now.
Brad Sattin is live where it happened with more. Brad?
Yeah, we could tell you, Jess, that there have been some problems here at this restaurant. This is called La Que Buena. The sign says open. It's lit up. It has been closed, though, for hours now. Police leaving the scene a short time ago. This is what's left behind. Bullet holes, 1, 2, 3 through this window. 1, 2 here, a total of 5. Again, one person dead, others hurt. The crazy thing about all of this, take a look. There are surveillance cameras all over the place. Here on the left side, there's one. Over on the right side, we count 1, 2 of them there. And just across the street here is the Salvation Army. We can count 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 cameras there. 1:35 this morning, this Mexican restaurant was open late at night when shots were fired by someone passing by. We know one man died at the scene, 2 others taken to HCMC. A 3rd survivor got to the hospital, we found out, on his own. 3 survivors, all adult men, non-life-threatening injuries for them. So far, no arrests in this case.
People get that liquor in them some nights and get to acting up.
As we mentioned, there are a lot of private cameras here. This one is a police mobile unit. Interestingly, it was put up just on Friday. You can see the distance it is from us. Of course, police are now going to take a look at that surveillance video, possibly if any of these other cameras are working, see what they find. And of course, if you have information, you're being asked to call police. Live in Minneapolis, Brad Sattin, 5 Eyewitness News. Millions of people will see pay raises, but it could be at the expense of some jobs here. Right now, we do know the federal minimum wage sits at $7.25. This proposal under consideration, this is in the U.S. Senate, by the way, would ramp it up in 3 steps, up to $10.10 an hour in the next couple of years by 2016. Government study shows it would increase earnings for more than 16.5 million people over the next couple of years. That would lift about 900,000 people above the federal poverty level. But the report also says it would cut roughly 500,000 jobs, especially for low-income workers. Study also noted that it could mean higher costs for businesses. Of course, that could potentially mean higher costs for consumers, which has been a main argument by Republicans against a higher minimum wage.
And this report also looked at
if the minimum wage were, say, $9 an
if
hour
it wasn't
instead of
quite
10
so high. Yeah, there are some numbers on that. Basically, the smaller the increase, the smaller the impact here. Instead of 500,000 jobs lost, the estimation is about 400,000 jobs could be lost. On the plus side, higher wages for about 7.5 million Americans, and 300,000 people would be lifted out of poverty, versus if they made more, that would lift about 900,000 people out.
Well, you're talking federal level, but how does all this play out when we talk about, we know it's going to come up.
It's coming up in the upcoming state legislature starting in about a week. We know the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul in favor of a higher wage, as are many lawmakers. They're pushing, a lot of them, for $9.50 an hour. Currently, there are 2 minimum wages in Minnesota. Small businesses at $5.25, the larger ones at $6.15. However, we just talked about this. The federal minimum wage at $7.25. Most workers are making that. This morning, by the way, the Star Tribune just released a poll of 800 people, finding that 42% of them think the minimum wage should be up to $9.50 or higher. 37% say it should be raised, but not quite that high. 16% saying it should stay right where it is. Both federal and state proposals on the table. Certainly over the next few weeks and months, we'll see how this all plays out.
We'll be hearing a lot about this particular subject.
You are right, as we already have been, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Brad.
Sure, guys. As you head to the shopping mall this holiday season, we wanted to alert you to a possible threat, one that parents have known about for generations, one that they don't seem to care strikes fear into the hearts of young children everywhere. They are heartbreaking images captured by my own coworkers of their sons, daughters, nieces, and nephews. From the looks of sheer terror to body language that, if it could talk, would say,
"Mommy, Mommy, get me out of here!"
Even the twins of my co-anchor Megan Newquist hysterical when faced with this threat. And this is the face of the threat. Yep, that dreaded trip onto the lap of old St. Nick.
Look over there and say, "Gee, you did it! Cool, guys."
I paid a visit to Mall of America to see for myself because, hey, let's face it, this could be fun.
Patty cake, patty cake.
But a funny thing happened watching Santa in action.
How is everybody?
No one cried. Not a one. Santa was too busy signing leg casts. I mean, was anyone even remotely scared?
No? Are you still sleeping?
I'm beginning to think my crying baby story is in serious jeopardy.
We've been doing pictures for a mighty long time.
Even older kids paid him a visit, as they've done every year since they were born. Mom just keeps bringing them back.
My kids have been seeing the same Santa for 17 years.
How many times have they cried?
None.
How is that possible?
I don't know, he's such a great Santa.
Even the one mom who predicted it,
they're gonna cry,
let me down.
Yeah, what would you like for Christmas?
A book.
For this Santa, it's the challenge of it all.
It's like an addiction I have, and it's like, what kind of game or what can I work out to work?
What can you do to keep away the tears?
Right, and I have enough tricks with a lot of experience.
42 years on the job, and talking to him convinced me he's the real deal. No one cries.
I don't get too many, though. Play with the tank engine, boy.
Well, almost no one.
I might lose that many a year.
Really? 5 a year?
Yeah, I don't
Out of how many kids?
I see 15,000 to 17,000 kids in my time here at the Mall of America.
And 5 of them will cry?
5. You did a good job. That's for you, hon.
So my crying baby story was a failure, but my producer suggested I give it another try, starting with his own son, come Easter.